Good morning. My name is Cheyenne Thurhill, and I serve as a member of the National SADD Student Leadership Council. Today, I have the honor of welcoming you our press conference as we kick off a monumental year for SADD, and a call to action to SADD students across the country as a part of Impaired Driving Prevention Month. To get us started, I would like to introduce the President and CEO of SADD, Don Teixeira.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Again, good morning. Happy holidays to each of you. And thank you for joining us for this exciting event. You know, it's hard to believe that we're on the verge of concluding another year. 2015 has been an exciting year for me personally. As you know, 9 months ago, I assumed the role of CEO of SADD, and just amazed how these months have flown by. And I really appreciate the warm welcome that I've received from everyone here today, so thank you very much. A few days ago, I saw one of those 2015 Years in Review articles that circulate around this time. You know, it reminded me that before you know it, Google and Facebook will all clog our news feeds with highlights from the previous year. You know, personal moments of triumph and failure, photos of holiday memories, laughter with family and friends. You know, social media is great and enables everyone to be the star of their own show. But then it hits you like a ton of bricks. You know, you realize that for some, the year in review will be yet another painful reminder of a young life lost. A reminder that the loved one will not be part of those celebrations, get-togethers, triumphs, or challenges, and they won't ever be again. So my heart goes out to the thousands of families who lost their teens on crashes on the roadways of America, not only this year, but every year. You know, and that's why this day is so important to me, and it's very important for all of us here. SADD began like any other nonprofit organization out of an unfulfilled need. In 1981, in a small town in Wayland, Massachusetts, you know, community experienced the loss of several high school students in a string of alcohol-related crashes. The students, deeply troubled by the horrific void now exists in their lives, they came together with a caring adult and started their first SADD chapter. And their goal was simple: just to end the reality of teens dying because they made the choice to drive drunk or they rode with someone else who was. You know, the students realized that if they were going to change things, you know, if they were going to change the culture, they had to be that change. And 34 years later, our work continues because teens continue to die from causes that are 100% preventable. So SADD today stands as a network of thousands of chapters in high schools, middle schools, colleges, and communities across the country. Our small but mighty national office is located just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, but the real power of this organization lives within our youth. One thing that drew me to SADD was the approach that empowering students to take the lead, identify issues in their communities, and then do something about it. It just grabbed me, and you know, we still continue that today. We empower them by giving them a voice at every level of this organization, from the local, the state, and the national levels. You know, we value their input and insights, and this really helps shape the strategy of SADD as time evolves. And why? Because peer-to-peer education is a powerful tool in prevention. You know, what SADD believes it empowers, we believe an empowered young person can and will change the world for the better. And it all starts with the decision to buckle a seatbelt, not to smoke that first cigarette, and to speak up when a friend may be in danger. Today, our teens are bombarded with messages about how they should look, how they should act. They get mixed messages from mind-altering substances that are now labeled natural and healthy, you know, and they're exposed to instances of horrific violence in the schools that continue to shock all of us. And despite all of this, all of the negative influence, I believe the future is bright because what I've seen in the hundreds of thousands of teens that choose to be students against destructive decisions, you know, they prove time and time again that the future is in good, capable hands. Today, SADD begins the celebration of its 35th anniversary, and in my short time with the organization, I've spent a great deal of time talking with the field, whether that's our teens or our passionate state coordinators. And there's no doubt that the teens today are far different from the teens from the 80s, you know, from our very first SADD students. Yet here we are talking about impaired driving still. You know, a problem we've been working on to address for over 3.5 decades. It still remains. You know, along with our partners here and others, you know, we've made great progress, and that's a fact. However, one life lost to impaired driving is one too many. That might be a little bit discouraging to some, but at SADD, we look at it as an opportunity. For too long, we've limited the conversation of impairment to be based around simply alcohol. That's no longer the case. Today's teens are driving under the influence of drugs, driving under the influence of alcohol, and they're driving and putting others at risk at being drowsy. So we realize there's so much work to be done, and so today I'm excited to announce that SADD is expanding our programming, our research, and network to include the issues of drugged and drowsy driving. So over the course of the next year, I'll be directing our programming team, our field of vibrant teens, to address these issues. We'll begin working with our partners, many of whom are with us today, to raise awareness, to contribute to research, and to use evidence-based strategies to save lives and ensure every teen has the opportunity to fulfill their purpose in life. So we've already started working on the issue of drugged driving. SADD has teamed up with RAD, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, GHSA, Ford Driving Skills for Life, and others to pilot one of the first drug driving programs in the country. You'll hear more about that, the work we're doing this afternoon during our panel discussion on promising practices in the field. So we at SADD look forward to working with all of you on these new issue areas. And on behalf of our national network, we thank you for what you do each and every day for keeping young people safe.
Thank you, Don. SADD has led the change in peer-to-peer education for the past 34 years, and students find their way to SADD for many different reasons. Some for leadership, some for community involvement, others because of a more personal story. It's now my honor to introduce Alexis Meadows, a 2015 SADD Speaks delegate and a member of the West Virginia SADD Student Leadership Council, to share her personal story.
Good morning. It's truly an honor for me to be here in front of you guys today and to help celebrate SADD's launch of Impaired Driving Prevention Month. SADD holds a very special place in my heart, not only being an outlet for my passion, but also a gateway to a better future for students all around the country. Like Cheyenne said, each student finds a different avenue to SADD. Unfortunately, it was the darkest hour of my life that led me here today. On November 18, 2011, my best friend was killed due to a drunk driver. One person's destructive decision ended her life forever. Many of you guys have children of your own, so think about your 13-year-old's life being changed forever. I no longer had my best friend since the 3rd grade, my defender on the soccer field, the girl I would graduate with, or the one who I would have by my side to further my educational career. I thought I had lost everything. And it was all taken away from me due to one person's destructive decision. I was angry, I was sad, but in those dark moments, I knew that I had a choice. I never wanted any teen to feel the loss that I was feeling. I never wanted another family to grieve the way I saw hers. I never wanted another community to experience the loss that I had. And that is why I came to SADD. In 2011, I was asked to tell my story at the West Virginia State SADD Conference. Ever since then, I've been honored with being on the Student Leadership Council of my state, being one of the 14 SADD students chosen from SADD Speaks this past summer, and now being honored to speak in front of you all today. I believe that through SADD, Andrea has changed the world. Without my best friend, I wouldn't have been able to meet such amazing people all across the country or be part of such a strong organization. Andrea continues to bless me every day of my life, even though she was taken away from me at such a young age. I wish my story was rare, but each year, thousands of Americans lose their lives due to these destructive decisions. During this year's Impaired Driving Prevention Month, SADD and our chapters across the country are joining together to support NHTSA's Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over crackdown. Together, through education and enforcement, we can reduce impaired driving. Thank you all for what you do to keep our roadways safe. Thank you for believing in me, in young people, and in SADD. Together, we will make a brighter tomorrow, and maybe, just maybe, see a day with 0 deaths. Thank you.
Thanks, Alexis. Thank you for sharing your story and turning your adversity into action. We're lucky to have you in the SADD family. Our next speaker is a true champion in traffic safety. SADD is thrilled to call the National Transportation Safety Board a partner and friend in our efforts to reduce teen crashes and fatalities. I am excited to introduce the chairman of NTSB. Would you please welcome the Honorable Christopher Hart.
Good morning and happy holidays, and welcome to the NTSB's boardroom. We're proud and honored to host this event. And thank you for that kind introduction. It's my privilege to represent the NTSB alongside SADD President Don Teixeira, NHTSA Administrator and former NTSB member Mark Rosekind, and GHSA Chair Jana as we mark Impaired Driving Prevention Month and host SADD's Teen Traffic Safety Symposium, Redefining Impaired Driving. The NTSB made the first of its many recommendations about impaired driving in 1968. That recommendation addressed alcohol impairment. For its part, SADD was founded 35 years ago at a time when about 50,000 people died on our highways every year, and about 1/2 of those deaths involved alcohol. Through the efforts of SADD and other safety advocates, the general public has become more aware of the hazards of drunk driving. Laws were changed and enforcement became tighter. By the late 1990s, about 1 in 3 highway deaths involved alcohol, but that proportion has been stubbornly constant ever since. In 2013, 31% of all highway deaths involved alcohol impairment. Now, after all these years, I'm glad that we're talking about impaired driving rather than drunk driving, for 2 reasons. First, alcohol is only one of thousands of impairing drugs that are causing accidents. And unfortunately, there is reason to believe that the problem of drug driving is seriously on the rise. Just recently, the NTSB issued a report on an accident in which a commercial truck struck a bus, killing 4 members of a junior college softball team near Davis, Oklahoma. The truck driver had been using a synthetic drug for which he had not been tested and which was not illicit. In fact, he had purchased the drug legally at a truck stop. Imagine that, purchased it at a truck stop. The public needs to understand that drug driving kills, whether the impairing drug is licit or illicit, and whether it's a recreational drug, over-the-counter drug, or prescription drug. Law enforcement is getting drug drivers off the road based on driving behavior and using drug recognition experts to determine impairment by drugs other than or in addition to alcohol. Their job is much more difficult with drugs because, unlike for drinking and driving, there is no bright line of illegality for drugged driving. Meanwhile, as I mentioned, drinking and driving continues to kill thousands every year. Notice that I say drinking and driving and not drunk driving. This is the second reason why it's important to talk about impaired driving rather than drunk driving. It's not only the unmistakably drunk driver that's the problem. Alcohol impairment actually starts with the very first drink. The NTSB continues to recommend a legal limit of 0.05 or lower BAC in all states, not the 0.08 that we've gotten used to. Many countries in Europe have placed the legal limit at 0.05, and the benefits of the lower limit are well documented. Critics say not to worry about drivers with BAC at the so-called lower end of the scale, since they don't account for most crashes, although they do account for some. But every drink, even your first drink, affects whether you'll know when to say when. In addition, we know from experience that self-diagnosis of impairment is not reliable. So if you're going to be driving, the question isn't when to say when, the question is whether to drink at all, and the answer is no. The NTSB also recommends ignition interlocks for all convicted offenders. An ignition interlock prevents a car from starting if the driver has been drinking. It's estimated that the average first offender has driven under the influence 80 times. Ignition interlocks provide a powerful incentive to adopt new habits and have been shown to reduce rearrest rates by 67%. This holiday season, law enforcement will be manning the checkpoints, not because they're out to get us, but because they're out to save lives. And they are putting their own lives on the line to do it. In fact, in this area, less than 2 weeks ago, not far from here, a driver who admitted that he had been drinking struck and killed a 24-year-old Montgomery County police officer. The officer, who was working on a special DUI assignment, had pulled over another motorist when he was killed. According to police, the driver who struck him had also been smoking marijuana. On behalf of the entire NTSB, I would like to extend our sincerest condolences to the officers' loved ones and colleagues. They've lost one of their own. Each impaired driving death is one too many and entirely preventable. The only acceptable number of impaired driving deaths is 0. The students in today's SADD have taken the baton and started their leg of the safety journey. Their work is vitally important because what students hear from their peers carries much greater weight than what they hear from adults. And I wish there had been an organization like that when I was a student to be able to engage in such positive activity. As for adults, we know that young people learn from what we do as well as from what we say. Our actions have to reinforce our words in order for our children to learn from our advice. December marks many other year-end observances in addition to Impaired Driving Prevention Month, and many of us shower our children with holiday gifts in this season. By driving unimpaired this month and every month, we can give the gift of life, ours as well as the lives of others in our car and others on the road. We can help ensure that we are there to celebrate together next year and perhaps ensure that other families are able to celebrate next year's holiday season as well. So thank you, and again, welcome to the NTSB.
Chairman Hart, thank you. On behalf of SADD, I want to especially thank you for your hospitality of today's events and for the support you and your staff have shown our organization. SADD and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration have a rich history of collaboration and innovation in youth traffic safety. Over the last 15 years, SADD and NHTSA have produced numerous programs that have changed the way teens, parents, and communities think about impaired driving. Today, we're honored to have the NHTSA administrator with us here today. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Mark Rosekind.
This is a season when all of us want to be thankful and celebrate life. But tragically, in 2014, 32,675 lives were lost on our roadways, millions injured and millions in crashes. And as Chairman Hart just pointed out, 1/3 of those lives lost were in drunk driving related crashes. And that has stayed at about 1/3 of the lives lost for over 15 years. There have been great advances. In the last 10 years, we've seen over a 25% decrease in the number of lives lost. And yet that 30% has persisted for much too long. Two numbers for all of us to know, given the context today, is that 1,678 young people between the ages of 16 and 20 were lost on our roadways in 2014. 581 more young lives lost as passengers in cars with young drivers behind the wheels. So what can we do about this? NHTSA and others have partnered to try and deal with this issue with a model. That means strong laws, high visibility enforcement, and making sure people are aware of the dangers of drunk driving. And that partnership has really extended to federal, state, local, and many other organizations like SADD, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, like our state partners. And we've seen a tremendous decrease. We've seen that number go down over 30% for drunk driving. And since 1973, when NHTSA's been doing roadway surveys, we've seen an 80% decrease. Tremendous progress, but not enough. As we've already heard, every one of those lives lost is preventable, and we need to do more. So that's why today it is actually a great pleasure to congratulate 35 years for SADD. All of us have a lot more work to do. I especially want to acknowledge their expansion to the 3 Ds. We're not just looking at alcohol, but drugs, illicit, over-the-counter, as well as other kinds of medications, and especially drowsy driving. Everyone's got to be alert and awake behind the wheel. So congratulations on 35 years. Congratulations on the expansion to the 3 Ds. And it is a pleasure for NHTSA to partner with everyone who is trying to save every life possible on our roadways. Thank you.
Administrator Rosekind, thank you for your remarks and for being a true leader in traffic safety. We cannot thank you and your staff enough for your support of SADD. SADD works hard to provide cutting-edge programs at a national level, yet we realize that the true success happens at the state and local level. This is why SADD is proud to work with the Governor's Highway Safety Association and with state highway safety offices across the country. it's a pleasure to welcome the Chair of GHSA and Director of the Delaware Office of Highway Safety, Jana Simpler.
Good morning. My name is Jana Simpler, and I serve as Chair of the Governor's Highway Safety Association, which represents the state highway safety offices that implement programs to address behavioral highway safety issues. I am also the Director of the Delaware Office of Highway Safety, and am proud to have had that position for the last 5 years. I'm honored to join you all this morning for this important event, and thank SADD for bringing us all together. Many state highway safety offices already work with their local SADD chapters to address their teen driver safety challenges through creative peer-to-peer programs. So it's fitting that we come together today to help guide this conversation at the national level. As we know, the decisions we make every day when we take to the roads can have lasting repercussions. In fact, as NHTSA has reported, the critical reason for 94% of all traffic crashes rests with driver behavior. The latest data shows that the overall traffic fatalities are going up after years of decline. We all have a role to play with regard to reducing these numbers, but young drivers have a critical role. They are developing driving habits that will take them throughout their lifetime. When it comes to teens, the term impairment often comes up, but impairment can take many forms. Alcohol and drugs are not the only things that have the potential to impair today's teen drivers. Electronic devices and lack of sufficient rest can be equally as dangerous, if not deadly. When it comes to drunk driving, the data is clear. Alcohol is still a big problem, contributing to about 1/3 of all the fatalities. This is why states are stepping up enforcement and public awareness efforts to support the national Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign this holiday season. In my own home state of Delaware, we'll be conducting over 750 DUI patrols as well as 5 additional DUI checkpoints. The statewide overtime enforcement will occur on days of the week and times of the day when crashes typically occur. Our paid media plan includes tactics designed to reach our target population, 21 to 34-year-old young males, and includes partnerships with liquor stores, malls, digital ads designed to reach young males, and social media posts to engage the target audience and encourage the use of a designated driver. Drugged driving is an increasing problem across the country, particularly as a number of states legalize marijuana. GHSA continues to support zero-tolerance policies for teens. It's so important that teens understand that even if marijuana is legal in the state, it's still off limits to them, and that no one should be driving while high. Earlier this year, GHSA worked with the Foundation for Advancing Alcohol Responsibility to delve into the issue of drug-impaired driving and make recommendations on how to address this challenging issue, but we still have much work to do. While not commonly classified as impairment, distracted driving certainly has the ability to make one dangerous. It's impossible to focus on your phone and the road at the same time, and having grown up in an era of constant connection, teens are particularly vulnerable to the lure of checking their phone while behind the wheel. And newly added to the list of driver impairment is drowsy driving. This often overlooked and little understood issue of fatigue is so important. It's impossible to drive safely when you're fighting off sleep. Again, young drivers are particularly at risk given that most teens do not get the recommended 8 to 10 hours of sleep needed to function at their best. We thank SADD for inviting us here today to do more to closely examine the many factors that can contribute to teen driving deficiencies, and look forward to collaborating with you, NHTSA, NTSB, and all of our safety partners to strengthen our efforts to reduce traffic crashes and keep teen drivers and everyone safe on the roadways. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Simpler. Many thanks to you and the members of the GHSA and for your tireless efforts of support for teen traffic safety and for being here today. I'd now like to welcome Don Teixeira, President and CEO of SADD, back to the stage to conclude with some closing remarks.
Thank you. Again, thanks to everybody that's here in person, but also I want to thank the people who are watching right now online. This concludes the press conference portion of the day, and we will start the symposium in just a few minutes.